everybody, and welcome to the show. This is take two for this one. It's a very serious topic that we're talking about, but there was a bit of a cock up right at the start, and it's all about saying, hey, Jeremy, hope you're having a sensational time babysitting. So we can't even talk properly at the moment, but it's just one of those nights. So Fernando and myself will be taking the show again tonight. How are you, mate?
I'm doing pretty good. For me, it's just one of those great Friday mornings. And shout out to Jeremy. Unfortunately, he can't be with us to record this amazing episode. The Shadow Files is all about all types of paranormal conspiracies and all the great, adventurous, exciting stuff. But today we're going to hit on a topic demons, poltergeists. Oh, I'm sorry. Lemons, poltergeists, and because somebody here with a very nice green glasses doesn't really like to use the word lemons.
Lemons. Oh, we'll go with it for tonight just because it is what it is and we can't really avoid it.
Yes. But yeah. So
we're talking about demons. Yes.
Yeah. No. I was just gathering my thoughts if I have ever, we talk a lot about, the paranormal and how, we are investigators. We go out there into the field and we just, have all of this amazing adventures. But it is so rare to come across anything that has to do with actual demon.
Correct. Very correct. Yeah. I've actually dealt with a few. Well, not dealt with, but been part of it all. Now, some cases we were able to identify what was going on, and then we used to have a exorcist here in Western Australia. Well, he used to service the entire country, and he would fly all around Australia to try and help families out that were afflicted with a demonic presence of sorts. And there were a couple of cases that, from our findings, actually had all the hallmarks of being something a lot more than just a normal haunting. So I had his number in my speed dial and I would give him a call and he would be out pretty quickly for us if he wasn't over east or something like that. And then he would take the lead because he's the one who's an expert at dealing with those kind of things. And it was very interesting. And in fact, it got to the point where, as I've said, if you go back through a lot of our videos back when it was the Paranormal Bikers, we did do an episode where I did discuss actually documenting 3 different exorcisms and getting them all on tape. And I was not actually involved in the exorcism itself. I was documenting it all, recording it all on camera, and I was a few steps back, but I saw the power of these things, and it's definitely in some cases anyway, not something that a human could fake. If you look at a lot of those photos of the girls in the Enfield poltergeist case, they look like they're jumping. They do look like that. You can't deny that's what they look like. So there's the skeptic in me, which is what every good paranormal investigator has to be. They have to have a skeptical standpoint, but they have to be open to accept something when they witness it and they can't explain it. So that's where I am, I want to believe, but I have to discount and debunk anything first before I will go into a paranormal or a more demonic type result. Now, in that I can't talk about all of the things that I saw, but I witnessed that. And again, you'll hear me say the same thing. I've witnessed that triple voice when somebody talks and it sounds like there's 3 individual voices coming out. I've witnessed very superhuman type strength. And there's a level of evilness that you don't want to explain. You don't want to experience it, put it that way. And the reason why I don't like the word demon is because it is a religious term. And these are my own personal beliefs. I don't believe in religion. If you look at all the different world religions, they all have a negative energy, demons, the jinn, or whatever. Actually, funny enough, they have good jinn and they have bad jinn. Whereas in Catholicism or Christianity, you've got demons and you've got angels. They're both supernatural beings. One's on the side of light, one's on the side of evil. And then anybody knows that we all like to live a balanced life, which means we've all got a little bit of both in us. So it's just a matter of when one takes it too far to the darker side, and that's when you get the this kind of activity going on. But yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and it's one that we've got a lot of people that we've spoken to, that have a lot of experience dealing with this. Like I said, I've had a few cases where I've suspected that's what we're dealing with, and we've got the right people involved, and we've seen it through to the end, but we've let them take the lead once we've identified that it's that kind of thing. Now, obviously, there have been occasions where we have said, yeah, this is what we believe it is, and they've come through and they've said, no, it's not that. So there is that little grey area where it can be a very oppressive, evil spirit, but it's not necessarily demonic. So, yeah, it's interesting. How much experience have you? I don't think you've had as much experience, have you, with that kind of entity?
No, thankfully. The closest I've been to dealing with demon would be a residence that I went to a couple of years back, but there was really no signs at all, no experience at all of that nature. But which brings me to the point of people that don't really understand or fear what they don't understand, which is what I like to say. They jump into the conclusion that it's a demon right off the bat.
Yeah.
A bottle could just tip over. Oh my God, it's a demon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So this is a very good topic. It's a very interesting topic, but most of all, hopefully that for everyone who is listening or watching us, it could also be educational, because I'm just so tired of even I've come across YouTubers that are supposed paranormal investigators, and they hear a freaking knock and it's like, oh, it's demonic. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It is freaking, it's just, it's annoying. And I always use the phrase, since I do a lot of reaction videos, but it's more for, I'm not gullible. I'll call BS whenever I see it. But I've been getting a lot of good, even commentaries. I've even gotten 2 weeks ago, I got in a comment on one of my videos of somebody who's dealing with paranormal occurrences. This person feels like there's an attachment and was asking for some advice. So, that educating the public is very much it should be part of our duties as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, but to get more detail of a demonic entity, one needs to. I've heard that if we do come across a case that is demonic, we need to identify it.
Correct. Yeah.
And and I recall having this conversation with you. I do not recall which episode, but I actually said that, oh, thank you, Gary, I learned something today. But I've always thought, depending on religion, is whether or not the demon is weakened. But then you said something along the lines is that the religion is not a factor.
No.
So that was very interesting to me, because in all of, I am always bashing on Hollywood for making paranormal this crazy, outrageous freaking joke. But you always see a Catholic priest in every movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like in all of the movies that you see out there, that from Exorcist or Exorcism or anything basically paranormal, there's a Catholic priest holding a cross.
Yep.
But that is not always the case.
No, it's not. In fact, the three exorcisms that I documented, one of them wasn't even from a member of the church. It was somebody who was a spiritual person, and it was more of a spiritual exorcism. And that one was pretty intense. That it was ridiculous. Now, the reason, I'll take you back to an interview that I did. Oh, mate, how long ago would this have been now? Funny enough, it actually came up. It's still on my phone, on the playlist on my phone, which was for a show on, I think it was on Blog Talk Radio. It might have been somewhere else. And the host's name was Chelsea Damali. Now, she was, and we were in contact daily. We were talking daily for years. And she ended up doing a TV show called Haunted Encounters Face to Face with Helmy and a few other people. Now, when that interview, she was interviewing me, and she had a co-host, John Fortuna, on it, and she asked me about placebo effect type stuff and how that works. And this is one of the things that we have to go through when we investigate the paranormal, any kind of a paranormal case, is we have to work out if these people have just watched too many spooky TV shows and they've watched too many ghost hunting TV shows, so they hear a something moves and it's automatically a poltergeist, and that they take it to the worst possible place. They catastrophize and it goes straight to level 10 when it's perfectly there's a perfectly natural explanation for a lot of this stuff. So what I mean by the placebo effect, and this is where I'll go into this, where religion doesn't really play a part in the core of what a demonic infestation is, or whatever you want to call it. Now, let me put it to you like this, right? The description of a demon is it likes to create chaos in a person's life, and it likes to feed on that chaos, feed on the misery, feed on the fear, and keep you right down in the doldrums. And when a person gets to a point like that, they become very susceptible to suggestion. You know what I mean? They'll do anything they can to get out of it. And this is where some are persuaded by the voices in their head or whatever the hell's going on. So, well, if you kill yourself, you won't have to put up with me again and things like that. And this is where a lot of things lead to these suicides, and you see people jump and things like that. Now, these things are not religious, right? when you see an exorcism on TV and there's a priest doing an exorcism and they've got the cross and they're saying all the words from their book and everything like that, the Bible, and saying these prayers, what that does is it gives the person and the people within the room, including the person with the affliction, a sense of hope that what he is doing is actually helping to get rid of whatever the entity is. And that's when this entity tries fighting harder to bring them back down again. And that's where these different levels of prayers go, oh, okay, we're going to the next level now. They feel like they've been a special case of it taking it right to that maximum level of exorcism.
Placebo effect.
To a point where whatever this entity is can't stay attached to the person because their vibrations are starting to lift up. And then that's when they let go, and that's when they turn around and said the exorcism is a success. It's not a religious creature or entity that's the issue. It's the same thing. It's just wherever it comes from, it is what it is, okay?
In other words,
let me finish.
Okay.
If you believed you were a Jedi and it was a Sith talking in you, if you had a Jedi talking, if you had Yoda talking to you and all that sort of thing, it would build your vibration up to a level where this thing can't hold on. And I used the analogy with you once before, if you remember that, if you've got a tree full of apples, if your vibration is high, you're up towards the top of the tree, the creatures that live at the bottom, the demons, can't reach you. What they're trying to do is bring you down to a point where you are at the lower end of the tree where they can jump up and get a hold on you. And it doesn't matter what your religion is, what your beliefs are. Christianity, call them demons. It's just a label. They are some kind of an entity. They are not necessarily religious. That they don't have, all they feed on is getting you into that miserable low vibe space. And this is why I'm saying this placebo effect thing is a case of when they believe something that they've seen, you can create your own hell. And this is where curses come from. If you believe that person is an evil witch and she says something to you, you know, I put a hex on you, I put a spell on you. Every time something bad happens in your life, you're going to say it's the curse. And then you start to believe the curse is happening. And then it builds and builds and builds. And you start creating your own hell. The curse is only as powerful as the belief you put into it. It's the same with demons. It's the same with a lot of these entities. You know, if you don't give it the time, if you try to live a happy life, get your vibration levels right up there again, they can't hold on. And that's the core of what an exorcism actually is. Obviously, depending on a person's faith, there's going to be different words that can help get them there. But the priest isn't exorcising the person. It's the person that's afflicted that's exorcising themselves, but they're listening to what is told to them to lift them up to that point where they can do it. That's the big misconception about every film, you know, The Exorcist, all of those sort of films, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. There are real cases, and a lot of them will come down to something like some sort of a psychological issue. You know, there could be something wrong with a person, and the difference between that and an exorcist, a demonic presence, is very, very fine. You know, I won't go into details, but I know people that live and have worked in that industry, and they've said they know some people have definitely got a demonic presence hanging over them, whereas some of them are just mentally unwell. I'm trying to choose words nicely, but you know where I'm going with that. So, yes, I do believe what religion calls a demon does exist, but it's not a demon, and it's not exclusive to Christianity. The jinn is not exclusive to the Muslim faith. All of these different things, it's the same thing. You go back to the Sumerian texts and everything like that. They talk about these things as well. And this was eons before Christ was crucified on the cross and Christianity was born. You know, Christianity is what, 2,000 years old. Islam is, I think, 4,500 years old. You know, the ancient Egyptian gods, they go back 5,000 to 10,000 years. It's questionable. But long before all of that was the Sumerian text, the Babylonian text. They're much older. And they say the exact same thing. So whatever it is that these new religions call Christianity, called demons, is much older than that. They're not demons. They are a thing in their own right. And these are just labels that different religions are putting on them. So, yeah, it's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, yeah. So, from what I gathered from that conversation that we had, so it's basically, you know, when you hear about exorcisms, it's not about attacking the demon. It's about putting more faith into the person that is afflicted.
100%.
And I never thought about it like this. You know, even with, you know, we always talk about movies when we come across certain subjects. And, you know, you always come across that one priest saying, get away, demon. You know, so, you know, all that stuff. It just made perfect sense, that analogy, once you told me. But let's just say, if it was more, you know, not a mental distress, but it is an actual, you know, what are signs for somebody to actually be like, there's a demon here?
Well, a lot of the signs are very similar to your average kind of mental illness at a start. You know, if they start to withdraw from regular life, you know, you'll know if somebody's not quite right. Everybody has those days where you go, yeah, he's not right today. But when it goes from one day to the next day and to the next day, and I'm talking about not if there's a situational issue going on, you know, somebody's had a breakup and they're down and so this is unexplained, it's happening. They're the very first signs that you need to keep an eye out. But then other things start happening, you know, and it's like watching somebody with a mental illness going downhill very, very rapidly. And you have to keep an eye out for that. And obviously the first thing you always need to do is explore that side first up, because you don't want to go straight to the other one, because that's just ridiculous. And in all honesty, here in Australia, there's a very big lack of exorcists now since Father Barry May passed away. And you have to keep an eye on that, because if they start talking crap, you know, they want to hurt people, they want to hurt themselves, they want to do this, they want to do that, that's when you need to seek help. Now, what generally happens is if a person has a religious background or they have a religious family, the signs often take on an anti-religious tone, which is where the Antichrist comes from, and this, that, and the other. It's rebelling against the religion. It's the exact opposite of what goodness is supposed to be. And when they start doing that, so that's when you get a priest involved if it's a person of religion, or you get a rabbi involved if it's a person from Islam or, you know, Muslim people. And hang on, that's not right. Rabbis for the Jewish. Apologies for everybody there. You know, you'd get an imam or one of those kind of people involved. So, like I said, I don't cater to religion as such. I don't have any problem with people believing in whatever they want. I would just rather go straight to the core rather than what somebody's picked up and what they've rewritten it as. How many times has the Bible been rewritten over the years and changed? So how much that's in the Bible now is actually real. And then, when you got the Council of Nicaea way back, they decided what books were going to go in there, what Gospels were going to go in there, what happened to all those forbidden texts, the Book of Enoch and all these other different things. It's been carefully crafted and carefully chosen so that they can control the narrative and they can control people. And that's why I don't like religion. So it's the same with these entities. I don't discount for one moment that these entities exist. It's just how they're portrayed by the different religions.
So aside from the psychological
Yeah.
and behavior aspects,
Yeah.
but what about more like environmental?
Well, you have to look at those kind of things as well. People have allergies. I know it sounds very basic, but take, for instance, myself. I suffer with eczema. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it is. I know how to deal with it. But you go back a couple of 100 years, suddenly you're a leper, or he's been afflicted by, a demonic presence. It's eating his skin or this, that, and the other, because they didn't understand. So when somebody that was afflicted with eczema, suddenly they've been dubbed the spawn of Satan or this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. And they do create a lot of that shit themselves. Now,
yes. Wouldn't that be something like let's say if, everybody has home remedies for certain things.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a case of what happened to the Salem witches? There were just, making people better, or maybe there were some bad ones of making people worse, and then there were dubbed witches because of certain remedies.
There's always going to be the bad amongst the good. Always.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, again, this is going to sound very anti-religious, but you look at all, and this isn't by no means casting a shadow on every single priest out there, but you look at the number of priests that have been busted for kitty fiddling and things like that. They say one thing to their congregation while they go out into the back room and they're doing things totally against what they're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's many would say that, that definitely, well, everybody would say that's definitely not acceptable, but it's definitely not preaching your religion and then living up to the same thing. And that goes across all of these things. So, yeah, you go back in time and, you know where I'm going with it anyway, is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with your experience, since you've been involved in a couple of exorcisms, is it true that, let's say, you come across a case that has, let's say, infestation of flies, aside from a possible rodent or animal being dead in the house? But I've heard this plenty of times.
Well, let me put it to you like this, right? This particular family, I'm referring to one of these exorcisms. I'm not going to go into all the details and everything, but it was a mother, and I think she had her 2 daughters living with her. She was separated, and she had her 2 daughters living with her. And she had a lot of, I think it was a sister there, and a lot of family friends were around to support when we came. Just there was, I think it was about 4 or 5 of us that turned up. And again, you got to take out the fact that this was sort of summertime in Australia, where there are a lot of flies around anyway. There's a lot of them around, but there was a lot more in this place. That being said, when somebody does have an affliction like this, they tend to not be the most cleanly of people. So clothes aren't getting washed and bodies aren't getting washed. There's BO smells, and I witnessed a urination happening during this exorcism, and a lot of snarling, biting, the triple voice thing. The strength was ridiculous, and the smells were, it was pretty bad, right? Now, what would happen is, while the exorcism was happening, there was this sort of battle backwards and forwards going, and then she'd almost wear out. And then she'd come to, and she'd be the mum again. And she'd be right for probably half an hour, 45 minutes. And then you would see the signs. She was starting to withdraw again. She was starting to stare. It was this dead look in her eye. That's the only way I can describe it. And that was, okay, we've got to start again. And then it all went again. And this happened, this was going right through the night. Like I said, I left in the early hours, and it was still going when I left. So, yes, I have witnessed the flies. It's not to the extent that you would see in the Amityville Horror with rooms full of flies just swarming. But, you know, in an average room in Australia, if you keep your fly screen shut anyway, you might have 3 or 4 flies in there. There might have been 20 or 30 flies in this one. So it's not an obscene amount, but it was definitely more than the usual amount. But again, I put a lot of that down to the lack of hygiene.
Also, just in case, you know, here in Florida, just last week, the garbage was picked up. So for those who didn't know, but if there is food or anything in your garbage bins outside of the house under heat,
Yeah.
You start getting maggots, and maggots turns into flies, so on and so forth. So it's not that I have a demon in the house. It's just that the garbage didn't get picked up. But what about this other theory with smell? People usually say that when they smell like sulfur or rotting flesh, it is indications that of a demonic situation.
They have said that. The 3 that I was involved with had very unpleasant smells. I guess some could have been almost borderline, a sort of sulfuric type smell, but when you get urination on top of urination, you get that very
pneumonia kind of
ammonia type sort of smell, and it gets pretty rank. Now, like I said, I've seen that a few times, and luckily I haven't seen number 2s flying. I would have been out of there 2 seconds flat if number 2s were flying. But I've seen spitting, I've seen vomiting. I've never seen like spitting of nails and things like that. I think that's all for dramatic effect in the movies. But I have seen vomiting, and I have seen, and that's because they get themselves into such a state that, have you ever gotten so excited or you've been so full of adrenaline that you've started to feel sick?
Okay, of course.
I think a lot of that, because it's you're in such a hyped state. I think everything gets to you, this surge of whatever's going through you, whatever adrenaline or whatever these things are, that it does make people sick. And because they're being so aggressive, they'll push like that, and you get the projectile vomit. I mean, maybe not like Linda Blair where it goes all the way across the room and it's like pea soup, but it will project, you know, a meter or 2 out. And again, there was nothing particularly superhuman in the level of it or the amount of it or, you know, how far it would travel. But one thing I can attest to is that the strength thing, this lady wouldn't have been any more than 50 or 60 kilos. And it took 3 guys when she was starting to get aggressive to sort of keep her in a place on the chair. and these guys were all sort of 100 kilos plus. So it was 3 or 4 times the weight, and she was shoving them around like you would not believe. So I do 100% believe in that strength side of things. I've seen it, I've witnessed it, and when you look into her eyes, there was nothing there. Now, to be fair and to be honest, when you see some of those absolutely drug messed up people, they have a very similar look in their eyes. There's just nothing there. You know, their body's moving, they're walking around, but there's nobody inside at the time. That's the kind of stare that you get. But you picture that when it's intense, they're looking right at you, but there's nothing behind it, if you know what I mean. There's a kind of creepiness about it, which is, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like when you're in the house or you're out camping, you've got that definite sense that you're being watched, but you can't see what's watching you. That blankness and that intense stare when she's staring straight into your eyes. But it's not her. It's not her that's looking. That's creepy. And that's when I was told by Father Barry, never make eye contact. And it's like, too late. Look through the camera. But even in the camera, it's every bit as powerful when you're looking through the camera lens as well. So, yeah, there is something to it. But again, I won't call it religion. Yeah.
I know there are other aspects that people love to throw out there that is a demon. You know, I've been scratched, I've been touched, I've been pushed. I wouldn't say I've been punched, but maybe nudged.
Yeah.
None of that to me means that it's demonic. Even scratches, dare I say, and this might be controversial within the paranormal, but even if you get scratched with the 3 scratch, lines, I don't think that's demonic either. It's just depending on how somebody's going to scratch you, the 3 bigger fingers is the one that's going to make skin contact, not these 2 little ones down here. Just to put it on a funny way aspect. What do you think when you come across shadow figures? Do you think shadow figures are demonic?
No.
I do not either. Even black mists, I don't think. I just think that is, for my opinion, shadow figures, black mist, anything dark, if you're able to capture it, because it's easier to capture white or light misty figures from any kind of instead of dark. I just think it's their way of manifesting some sort of, how you would say, the light spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't consider that to be demonic.
No,
either.
I mean, it's like shadow shadow people, shadow creatures, whatever you want to call them. Yes, they are dark by nature, but I don't believe they're all evil. I do believe some of them are. I just think it's a different form of paranormal entity. You know what I mean? I've heard of shadow figures that have actually helped people. Now, there's a definite case in the Pennines in the UK. When I was a kid, I went on I've told you about this before, about that adventure holiday where we stayed in the cave and all that sort of, the haunted cave and all that kind of thing. And they did tell us about a lot of the old ghost stories while you're under the campfire and everything like that. But there's this one case, which is a real life case in this area. Now, what you got to remember is in England, in the wintertime, it does snow, especially up in the Pennines. And it can come out of nowhere sometimes. Now, there were these people that hikers and things like that, and coming down the trail, especially when you get up high and you get the mist and you get the snow, and it becomes hard to see where you're going. And when everything's white, everything becomes hard to distinguish where the edges of things are, you know. And they were trying to work their way back down along this very a very narrow path along this very steep. I wouldn't call it a mountain, but it's certainly enough where if you'd fall, you could do a lot of serious injury, if not kill yourself. Now, every time it would get to a certain point, they would see a shadow figure ahead. And it wasn't, they could make it out, but they couldn't get features. And they were yelling out, but they weren't getting a response. So what they would do is they would follow it because they would see it walk in this direction. So they walked in that direction. Hang on, I've just lost my focus. Let's click my button. They would follow this thing and then it would disappear. And then they would keep walking and then suddenly it would appear again and it would go in a different direction. They would follow this thing. And what it worked out was the next morning, they'd worked out that every time they'd seen this creature, this shadow person, it was actually turning them up. It was turning up and becoming visible to them. So they followed it right at a point where there was a major cliff. And if they'd have kept walking, they would have gone, or at least one of them would have gone straight over the edge and died. So this thing was leading them down the mountain. And then it was a one-off story until it happened on at least 4 or 5 other occasions. People report seeing this thing and they trust it. And they actually gave it a name because what they think it is, it was a person that actually died in a storm up on this mountain. And I can't remember the guy's name, but they all attribute it to this guy helping people get down safely. So that's a case where a shadow person is actually helping people out. And that's what I'm saying. You can't label everything with the same brush or the same label, you know. So, yes, there are some shadow entities that like to mess with it. It doesn't mean they're demonic. It just means they can be nasty. It's like every person in the world. You've got arseholes and you've got nice people. It's the same in the shadow realm, in the ether. You're going to still have those good ones and you're going to have the bad ones. You just don't know which one you're going to get.
I completely agree. Over here, I just typed in what are identifications just to see what AI will throw out. What are identifications of a demon haunting?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we already spoke about the smell. We already spoke about the flies, but then there are a lot of other things that is being thrown out that could just identify a regular haunting. For example, here, temperature fluctuations.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not going to determine that there's a haunting. That's going to determine that there might be a possible draft coming in from somewhere.
Yeah.
Or let's say if it's a legit cold spot, it's going to be a paranormal event, which is why that it would be. Well, first of all, it's going to be identified as paranormal. Where is this a cold spot coming from? Because what I have witnessed, especially in Kings Park, was here is cold, here is regular. Here is regular. It's just this area right here that is cold. That is paranormal, not saying that I'm sticking my hand through a patient, but that's paranormal. Yeah. It's not something that is going to definitely not explain a demonic, anything demonic. But also, let's say a lot of people, I have felt being in certain places, I have felt that there's a heaviness, in the atmosphere, or, like you just feel like something's not right. But we can't really go with that either, because depending on the person.
Not just that.
Go for it.
Say, for instance, paranormal investigators like to go into old creepy buildings and investigate. And sometimes they'll get these very strong odors, and they'll say the atmosphere got very thick and very dense. Now, say, for instance, you go into a room, which is generally these old buildings are open to the elements and whatever, and there's been rain and stuff like that, and everything is waterlogged. I'm talking about, you know, if you got like chipboard walls or MDF walls and they're just so waterlogged, it gets a very strong mildewy type smell. That creates a very thick atmospheric condition. You start to have issues breathing. Oh no, it's affecting me. You know, the smells are not the nicest. It's that damp, rank kind of smell. They then get the mind going. The mind does more damage than just analyzing what's actually happening. If you analyze what's happening and you don't get into the speculation about what it could be, that's when you're going to get the true recordings. And that's why we will use devices to use a lot of these things, you know, test a lot of these things out. Now, again, if there are certain radio signals, or take, for instance, there's a location not far from here where that it used to be a power station. Closed down now. Like I said, there's been a number of murders and there've been a number of suicides in this place, as well as whatever else has happened in there. We don't know. But when it shut down, they created the substation literally right next door to it. I'm talking about not even 50 yards away. There's this massive substation which is pumping out so much electricity. The last time we were in there, I had, you know, those separate TTL flashes that go on the top of a SLR camera?
Okay, yeah.
I had one of them. And I just, by accident, it touched the wall when we were sort of sitting down. And it started arcing. It started going. There was so much energy from that substation that was hitting this building that it was creating its own energy field throughout the building, which creates what they call the fear cage effect.
I was just about to talk that.
There are a number. It can create its own version of an infrasound type environment because of the low hum and this, that, and the other. So it automatically puts your senses on edge. At these points, you have to rely 100% on the equipment that you got with you. And I'll be honest with you, even that is not going to work in an environment like that, because you're going to get false EMF readings. You're going to get this, you're going to get that. So while it also, from a paranormal standpoint, and we say that an entity needs to draw energy to manifest, it takes power from your batteries. It can absorb the heat from the air, and that's why you get cold spots. And then it will try and manifest. There's enough in this particular building, it doesn't need to do that. And we've witnessed a lot of actual paranormal activity within this building, okay? Things being thrown by themselves, noises where there's nothing there. We've just been to a dead end, and we've come out and stuff's been happening behind us in the dead end, and we know there's nobody back there because we've just spent 2 hours in there. And yes, and we've heard screams, disembodied voices. We actually got the name of one of our investigators called out. So
wow.
I don't believe for 1 second that every single one is going to be an actual paranormal occurrence. Mm-hmm. But in a situation like that, there's definitely enough juice in the air that it can create that. Now, the problem with this location is a lot of kids go in there, a lot of graffiti, there's a lot going on. But what happens is, you know what kids are like. Sorry, just touching me. That sounded wrong. My screen to get the focus going again. They tell stories, and this is where urban legends come from. And then that's where it all starts to build. So what's potentially not even a haunted location suddenly becomes a very creepy
haunted.
proposition. We go in and we check them all out,
Yeah.
and a lot of people, you know as well as I do, a lot of paranormal teams, a lot of normal paranormal investigators, they're going out for the thrill. They're going out to make a YouTube video. They're going out for the screams, for the scares, for the shock factor. It's not real paranormal investigation. Real paranormal investigation is not really ideal for a TV type situation because it can be boring. It can be hours of talking to yourself or appearing to talk to yourself. It can be hours of just analyzing equipment and stuff like that. It's not good TV,
For sure.
but it's real. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And then you watch a lot of these people on YouTube and they walk into a house, and shit's going on and they're reacting to it, screaming their heads off, running around like absolute knobs.
And sorry to say, but not even just on YouTube. Like there's very popular paranormal television shows that's because I'm sorry, but just because they're there doesn't mean that they're going to post up a deceased person and do like a little Pinocchio thing because you cannot make them do nothing.
No.
So I am 100% on board with. There's been times I've gone to the same location that it is haunted. I spend hours on end in there and we come out with nothing.
Yeah.
But we know it's haunted.
Now,
but nothing happens. So
what
is the television going to do? They're going to create it.
While we're talking on this subject, I was actually in a conversation the other day on Facebook with some there's probably some well-known names throughout the paranormal community because I know anybody who's a paranormal investigator out there, you have a look and it'll say you've got 50 mutual friends, you've got 100 mutual friends, you've got 200 mutual friends. So there is a network where a lot of these people are interconnected, so to speak. Now, there's this one guy, I won't name his name, but he is a US Marine. And there was a post up about some paranormal TV show or paranormal video. I can't remember what the deal was with it, but people were saying about the validity of some of the stuff. And I just turned around and said, no, it's a load of crap. I said, I'm sick of some of these TV shows because it's all about, there's no real paranormal investigation. I think the last two real paranormal investigation shows were things like, obviously Ghost Hunters and GHI and Paranormal State. After those, it all became, let's see who's got the new Fandangle toy, the new spirit box, the new this, the new that. And then it became who can outdo each other, who's getting more ghosts in this location, who's getting more in that. And it becomes almost a ratings type, they become sort of paranormal sluts in such a way. They just do everything they can to get what they want. And that's where a lot of real TV shows lost out. Now, I put all this in a comment on the post, and I did get some responses. And one of these responses was from this guy who is in the US Marine. He might be at the US Marines. I'm not sure now, but he was in the Marine Corps. And he is a paranormal investigator. And he sent me a message to say, just hang fire. He goes, there is a new one in production now that he is involved with, and it's the real deal. We will wait and see, but he said it's going back to hardcore paranormal investigation, not like, and I'm going to say it, not like Ghost Adventures going in there, dropping a few cameras down and, let's scare the crap out of Aaron and do this, that, and the other. Actual hardcore investigation stuff. So we will wait and see. So all we can confirm is that there is a new show coming. Eh?
Honestly, when you say hardcore, to me, it's not going to sound. Because I was a fan of the first 4 seasons of Ghost Adventures because of a direction they started doing. Usually, what I liked about Ghost Hunters is that they were actually investigating.
That's what I mean. I don't mean hardcore as in the going out there, this, that. I mean actual legitimate investigation. It's
Okay,
all
okay.
legitimate. It's not hard. All I mean by hardcore is it's not all the fluff that you see on the other TV show. It's pure
Yeah,
investigation.
yeah. Because with the Ghost Adventures, what I like with their direction, and the only reason why I like their direction was because they didn't have all this fancy equipment in the very beginning. They didn't have a camera guy, a booth guy, a mic guy. It was just three people going into a location. That's the direction that I very much enjoyed. But they completely changed. And but yeah. If there is a television show coming out, because yes, there were a couple, but they didn't really make. I mean, let's just say kindred spirits.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed, seeing these guys because they were more obviously just like myself and just like yourself, respectful. They're not out there trying to, this disrespect, because a lot of the stuff that I see out here, I've always said, even on my reaction videos, every haunting is not going to be demonic. Every haunting is not evil, but I would be pissed off if I was a deceased person, and you're just doing your thing, and you see these assholes coming in and they're like, oh, demonic. I would feel a little bit offended. And likewise, there are some people that are very gullible, and they end up thinking that that it's an evil spirit, because a spoon moved, right? But what if it's a loved one, right? Like, right? Like, you just don't know. But what if it's a loved one? Like, I would feel bad if I am experiencing paranormal activity in my house and it's my father and I'm calling him evil,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, there's just a whole aspect, and you got to be a really good investigator, and not even investigation, not even for the paranormal, but you need to just have experience with different types of people, so you are able to actually and formally label them, or whatever it
Yeah.
is, or what's going on. I mean, it's not just about walking in with a voice recorder,
No.
and you just need to know.
You have to do a lot of research beforehand. You need to know your stuff. You need to know what is a residual haunting. You need to know what is a intelligent haunting.
Sure.
You need to know what is paranormal activity, poltergeist activity. You need to know the signs of something that's a little bit more malevolent, a little bit darker. And you need to know all the signs for all of these things before you even go into a house, because the first time there's a little bump or there's a little this, and okay, even taking aside all of that, you need to know what the natural causes are for a lot of these things that could potentially happen as well. And you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be realistic. You can't just go, oh, it's spooky, I'm going to say it's paranormal. You have to debunk it. Now, I'll tell you, there was one time every Wednesday where I used to work, we would all go for lunch at the local Chinese restaurant. Now, in the summertime, it gets very hot in there, right? And they come out with very, very cold drinks for you. And I've got it on video somewhere, my glass on the table. And then we all stopped and watched it because this glass was sliding across the table by itself, leaving its little trail. And it's all to do with condensation and stuff like that. But anybody who didn't know any different would look at that, right? Now, I remember it was, I can't remember if it was a Ghost Adventures show. It was one of the paranormal TV shows way back. And they were investigating this old bar. And it was in a really hot, humid part of America. And they talked about glasses moving across the table by themselves and things like that. So what they did was they sprinkled talcum powder down and put the glass on and like nothing happened the first night. Well, no, because the talcum powder absorbs the moisture. You don't get that condensation thing. Funny enough, the next night there's this big streak all the way through in a dead straight line. If they don't go in a straight line, there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that in it. And it's a case of you can't believe everything you see in the TV shows. And a lot of people who have issues with mental stability see these things, they do believe it, and then they believe they're seeing the same thing in their own homes, and they talk themselves into a paranormal or a demonic infestation when it's nothing more than natural things happening. So what you have to do as a paranormal investigator is rule these things out right from the start. If it's this, it's not paranormal. If it's this, it's not paranormal. If it's this, it's not paranormal. Once you've discounted all of them, if there's still something else happening, then you've got something where you can start formulating okay, is this residual? Is this intelligent? What is it? So there's a hell of a lot you have to do in a real investigation before you even get to the demonic label. And unfortunately, too many people jump straight to it without ruling out everything else before it.
And dare I say, not even for an investigator. I mean, it's part of our job to think outside the box. But with what you just said is a perfect example of what anybody who feels they're experiencing paranormal activity could do themselves also. Is just thinking just a little bit. You know, you don't have to have fancy equipment to figure out that the condensation on a flat surface table is going to move the cup. But you know what I was, when you brought that up, I was just about to say last year, maybe a month or two before I stopped working at my job back in New York, I wanted it to do a little social exercise and putting it out there in the paranormal field just to get the reaction of people. There was a desk drawer that was, it had a lot of paperwork, but this desk drawer was becoming an annoying thing to me because it just kept on opening.
Mm-hmm.
Due to the weight of the papers and more stocked up in the front and, the desk being a little lodged, it kept on opening the drawer. But what I was going to do, and I ended up not doing it because, I was at the job. I didn't want to, whatever. What I was going to do is, because I could have literally be like, if there's a spirit here, can you open the drawer?
Yep.
I could have completely played it off. And I was going to put that up there. But like, just like how you said, there's a lot of paranormal activity that can actually be explained. And it's unfortunate that these, there are just some television shows that takes advantage of the gullible.
Mm-hmm.
But last thing that I'm going to say, since we've been on this subject, we started off talking about demons and we ended up Paranormal Investigating 101. So I think you could take this one clip.
We did talk about poltergeist activity as well. So
I mean, we could take this one recording and whoosh, do two.
No. We'll leave it as it is. But one of the other things that I do want to say while we're talking about people going in and labeling something paranormal right at the start rather than doing their homework, learning everything, and then discounting things in a methodical manner. Put yourself in the shoes of the family you were trying to help out, okay? You can't go in there and start labeling things as paranormal right from the start because you're going to terrify that family. And that's not what paranormal investigation is all about. Yes, we are trying to find out what's paranormal, but we also have to discount all the natural things first. So if you go into an investigation and you find that this is the cause, there's a window over there that doesn't quite fully close. It creates whistling noises and it makes things move and stuff like that. that's a cause. You have to put all these in a report and be honest with the family, because we're not out there to terrify families and make them even more scared than they already are, because they are already scared if they are calling you for help.
Mm-hmm.
If you can give them peace of mind that, look, it's all natural. They might feel like they're stupid. Don't feel stupid. This happens at a lot of places. These are very normal causes for this kind of phenomenon to happen. It's not paranormal. You don't have a ghost. You've done your part. You've written a report. You've helped a family out. They know they don't have a ghost. They feel happier in their own home. That's a successful investigation. Even though you have not found a single thing that is paranormal, it is still a successful investigation. And that is exactly what you want more than not, because you are helping people out. Now, when you do have to deal with something that you've discounted everything, you still don't have an explanation for what's going on, and you start bringing all the big guns, all the real gear in there, and you start bringing in some additional resources, as in people that you may know, who can help out with some of this stuff, and you start capturing real paranormal activity, yeah, we start getting excited then. But one thing you should never do is antagonize something or go into activity, because when you walk away, you're leaving that family with whatever mess you've created. And there's a potential that you might get yourself an attachment and take it back to your house as well. So, yes, we all will use a little bit of provocation sometimes, but never in an actual investigation of an actual residential house where there's a family involved. You never do that. It's all about identifying whether it's paranormal or not paranormal, and then taking the appropriate action from there. So that's what I say to people. And there are teams over here which automatically start off on the wrong foot because they have a price list on their website or on their Facebook page for helping a family out. And I'm sorry, but that should never happen. They should not be charging people to help them out. I've had people contact me and they said they're very concerned because they reached out to this other team because they had a very professional looking website, but they wanted to charge me $400 to come out just to look. I said, well, we don't do that. I've had people offer, okay, well, if you're not going to accept money, will you accept fuel charges? Now, I've travelled from one side of this metropolitan area to the other side of the metropolitan area to help families out. And I won't charge them anything. I won't say, no, they've offered me money. And I said, no, this is what we're here to do. And I still get messages every time somebody says something nice, or you'll get a compliment about an investigation that you've done. You've helped a family out. They'll say thank you. And some of these other families still going, yeah, they helped us out as well. And, it makes you feel good that you're actually helping people, putting families at ease. Mm-hmm. So that's what it's all about. I mean, in that particular case that I'm thinking about now, there was a paranormal entity there, but what we were able to identify from the gear that we took over, and it was only myself and my wife, because Lynn's an investigator as well. We went over to help the family out. So we didn't take everything with us, but we had a few bits and pieces. And from that, we were able to identify some names. Well, a name. And apparently, once that name came through, every one of the family that were there, they all now they know what it is. It was a family member letting them know that it was around, because they just moved over from the UK and they had things going on in their house. And this was a family member who'd passed back in the UK, and it was letting them know that they were around. But they were seeing all this stuff happening, and they were getting a little bit freaked out because weird stuff was happening. And once we were able to identify that name didn't mean anything to myself or Lynn. We just came up with a name that we picked up, and they knew exactly who it was.
Did they feel bad?
They did not want They didn't want the entity to be removed. And they said the house.
But did they feel bad?
Hey?
Did they feel bad? Did they say like, "Oh man, and I just cursed out my mother"?
No.
I mean, whoever the entity was. But that's exactly bringing.
What was going on was there was little things happening, and obviously this thing was wanting to let them know. This person was wanting to let them know that they were there, and when they weren't picking up on it, it was trying a little harder. So things were getting a little bit more intense, and that was starting to freak them out. And that's when we got called. As soon as they knew who it was, they spoke to this creature. We had a few hits on the EMF at the time. And it's the old fashioned, you were able to get the yes, no answer thing going on. They were able to they asked questions, Lynn and I didn't. And they got the answers that meant something to them. We had no control. We were just letting them know, there's the EMF. They can see it when it's starting to spike and everything. They got their own answers without us being involved. And that was probably a couple of years ago now. And they still say everything is fine. They know what it is. We were able to help that family out. And they're at peace. And that's what the paranormal community should be all about. Not about who's going to get the most hits on a YouTube video. It's about helping families out. It's not about, I can charge somebody $1,200 a night to have people walk through my house. It's about helping families out. It's not about making money.
Yeah, so, for sure. I made a comment not so long ago. Yes, I've been all over the place. I've been to all of these amazing places. Jeremy knocks on me because, I could go to the Lizzie Borden house. Yes. At the same time, not really, right? Because already the paranormal field just ran a train through all of these cool places. And what interests me more, like I'm not even interested to go in there to investigate. Now I'm interested in the history. I'll do a tour way faster than an overnight investigation. Why am I going to investigate? Is it called investigating? You already know it's haunted, right? I mean, to me,
you don't know it's already haunted. No. Everybody says it's haunted. You don't know whether it is or not.
Yeah, but like let's say like all 100 people went in there, 100 people came out saying it's haunted. What else am I gonna do? Like, what? Even if I was to go in there and be the one opposing person, it's not haunted. Like, there's really no reason for me to go in there to try to investigate, and especially pay this arm and a leg just to investigate a night. Yeah. So that's where I'm going with that. But I would much rather do a tour and just experience and just, the history of it. That is right now what is more interesting to me when you talk about high profile places. I actually ended up liking doing abandoned locations more so because it's more exciting for me as a paranormal investigator. But there's a big difference between going into an abandoned places because you're not really helping anybody there. This is just for me.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, if I go and, somebody reaches out, DMs me, that they want advice or even my help for me to go, whatever. Now that's a whole different aspects. That is, let's say a professional standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've been all over. Just recently, I went to Savannah, Georgia. Great. Love the place. Do I want to do an investigation? Of course. I would like to experience what everybody else has experienced, but it's already done, right? Like, what am I going to give back to this place? Because if I don't get nothing, then what am I going to say? Oh, Savannah, Georgia is not haunted?
Yeah, exactly. And as well as I do that, you can visit the same location on 4 or 5 different occasions and you can get different results every single time. Just because you don't have activity one night doesn't mean it's not haunted. You know what I mean? And then another night, it can absolutely go off. Now, there's a place, it's about 5 hours north of where I live, maybe 5.5 hours north of where I live, called Greenough. Now, I know there's a house out there which is known as the Greenough Axe Murder House. This happened not 150 years ago like Lizzie Borden or however long ago it was. This happened 20 years ago, probably. Not even, I can't even remember. I remember it being on the news when it happened. And I remember seeing some of the news footage where this guy killed I can't remember if it was his family or his girlfriend's family with an axe. They were even the kids, they were running down the driveway and he was chasing them down the driveway and he axed them and their bodies were all over the driveway. This is a big property. Now, when we investigated out in Greenough, we didn't even know the address of this place. We just happened upon it. And there's a definite vibe. They've got this big tall bush that grows all the way along the front now to try and hide the house. I know for a fact no one has ever been in there to investigate. It's places like that with a history that nobody's ever been to that would be interesting to investigate just to see what's going on. Now, I don't know what happened before that within the house to get to that point where the axe murder actually happened, but most of the murders actually happened out on the front veranda and on the front lawn. So a lot of that paranormal investigation will be happening outside. So again, you have to be very realistic with yourself in a situation like that because you're open to all the elements, and it's the same with every single investigation that a person does. You have to be 100% honest with yourself and don't go away disappointed that you didn't see anything moving by itself or you didn't have a phase 4 phantasm flying past like in Ghostbusters. It's all about the little nuances, the very subtle things. That's what real investigation is all about. So it's very rare for it to be a full-on smack you in the head type situation.
Yeah. No. I've always said that, especially when I come across videos with the reaction videos, if it's too out there, like it's not just about the video. I see every detail of it, even the expression of the person that's recording. You could tell when somebody's like overacting in their voice. Oh my God!
Have you ever watched Most Haunted? Oh.
What about the last 20 seasons of Ghost Adventures?
I stopped watching that after season 5. It wasn't long.
I say the first 4, possibly 5 seasons.
It wasn't long after a Pavalia Island in Venice. It wasn't long after those ones that I stopped watching it because you start noticing a pattern. The same shit's happening all the time, and they pick. Oh, EVP captured. What does it play? What the hell was?
I'm sorry, but
I have exactly what they sound like.
I don't think I believe I have gotten way better EVPs in the last 20 seasons of their shows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but you're absolutely right about that. Holy crap.
But, oh no, the biggest embarrassment of any, I mean, this is a big call, of any paranormal TV show has to be Most Haunted. And unfortunately, the fallout from that is a lot like Derek Acora, who he got bagged by the crew for, they were saying he was fake and this, that, and the other. But these are guys that were caught throwing things and, and they were caught doing this. They were caught manifesting their own paranormal activity so they can capture it on video. They're the fakes. I've actually worked with Derek Acora in person, and I've taken him to a location that he knew nothing about, and he blew me away. I actually thought I caught him out because I was trying to catch him out. I honestly was. I'd seen him on a few of these episodes, and I was like, oh, he's getting all possessed and this, that, and the other. And, you know,
cinematic.
It was very dramatic on the TV. And I got, yeah, I'm going to catch this guy out. Now, we walked from where we met him. So he had no idea where he was going. Nobody, the only person that knew was myself and the people at the location that we were going to. And they had no contact with him. And they were keeping it secret anyway, because this is a very sensitive building in the Perth CBD. And when I took him over there, he started telling me it's a this, it's a that. And I got, no, I got you already. But we had an historian there, and she confirmed everything that he said. And I'm like, he's already proven that he's picking stuff up that I didn't even know about the building. And he didn't even know where we were going. And the sad thing about a really bad TV show like Most Haunted is it really affected his career to a point. Yes, it gave him exposure and he got to do his tours and things like that. But because he wouldn't follow the narrative that the TV show wanted him to follow, they started labeling him as a fraud. Now, I don't know if a lot of this being possessed was for dramatic license. I don't know. I can't lay claim to that. I witnessed some of it, and I still had a sort of internal smirk when I witnessed some of it. But what was coming through in that was legitimate stuff that the historian actually confirmed. Stuff that he couldn't know because I didn't know. And that tells me that he is the real deal. But whether he's hamming it up a little bit for cameras and things like that, I mean, I don't know. But he was a legit guy. And unfortunately, he got painted pretty badly by those people because they were disgruntled. They got rid of him. They brought David Wells in. I think Ian Lawman went in there for a bit as well. I could be wrong. But they were the fakers. Annette Fielding and Carl. They used to go, Carl. You know,
oh man!
It was yeah. I'd watch it just for a laugh. You couldn't take anything that they did seriously. They weren't paranormal investigators. They were just a bunch of goofballs that had an EMF meter and got to go to some cool locations. You know. So anyway. I think we've ticked off several TV shows now. So if they watch them, we're going to get a whole load of nasty emails from people that like them.
Well, I still think we should do a whole episode bashing on certain groups. If we don't get, we'll just be like, and we're gonna talk about this group. Let's see what's up. This group, let's see what's up. I mean, not all are bad.
What's that? Zach.
But yeah.
Zach.
But yeah, I think this was a good one.
Yeah. Anyway, on that, I think it is time to let everybody who's watching go and rest in peace. That sounded wrong. Rest up, not in peace. Well, in peace, but not rest in peace. Jeez, I'm just going to shut up, man.
I'll catch you guys on the next.
Take it easy. I'm going to press the stop button now and just say, see ya. Oh, I've got to do that because if I don't say anything, then it just cuts us off automatically. So,
bye-bye.
Take it easy, people. Bye-bye.